Well, Uganda has sent more troops to Juba, South Sudan, to assist the South Sudanese government to defend itself from any possible clash that may erupt in the country. And this is the first time that the South Sudanese government is coming out to say that indeed the UPDF are in Juba and they will assist our national army should there be any clash that may come about because of the recent flare-ups in the country. It is important to note that previously the South Sudanese government has been out there in denial, saying that there are no Ugandan forces in the country, but right now they have said that it is true. The Ugandan forces are indeed in the country. Well, in this video, I'm going to tell you about these new flare-ups of conflict that are erupting in South Sudan and how all this build up to what we have right now in South Sudan. Well, this is Bonafide. If you haven't subscribed, kindly subscribe and hit that notification button so that when I release something new on the South Sudan crisis, you get notified as soon as possible. Well, the Ugandan lawmakers recently approved of their support to this deployment of Ugandan troops to Juba to assist the National Army of the South Sudan to defend itself from any possible clash that may come because of the recent flare-ups in South Sudan. This is the world's youngest country that is in peril because of a recent flare-up of security crisis. It all started by a statement by the military chief, General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, saying that the UPDF is entering Juba to assist the government of South Sudan to defend itself. And many came out to say that that is false. The South Sudanese government say that that is not true. But as time went by, we saw many videos of vehicles, as you can see on your screen right now, vehicles that are Ugandan People's Defense Forces vehicles and armories getting in South Sudan, getting in Juba. And right now, the South Sudanese government has said that indeed the UPDF is in our country and they are here just for security purposes as a brotherly neighbor to assist us should there be any kind of flare-ups in security in our nation. But how did all this start and why is the Ugandan forces in South Sudan to assist the National Army of the South Sudan? To have a better understanding of the security crisis in South Sudan, you have to first of all understand that South Sudan is in a power-sharing deal. At the moment, the government of Sudan is in a power-sharing deal, and we have the President Salva Kiir on one hand and the first Vice President Riek Machar on the other hand. These are the two major people when you're discussing the security crisis in Sudan. And as I'm going to discuss, you'll see that there is deep ethnic differences that has made all these two factions to be what they are right now. That even Salva Kiir, as the president, does not have full control of the armed forces of the country. And that has made the entire situation in South Sudan to be fragile. And that is what is threatening the peace of South Sudan as we speak right now. Well, to begin with, the SPLM, that is the Sudan People's Liberation Movement, won the independence of South Sudan in 2011. At that time, it was one unified country, but differences started to emerge between these major ethnic groups in South Sudan. We have on one side the Nuer, and on the other side we have the Dinka. And both of these two major bigwigs in politics in South Sudan, Riek Machar and Salva Kiir, belong to two different, distinct ethnic groups. Salva Kiir is a Dinka and Riek Machar is a Nuer, and that was the start of the conflict in South Sudan from 2013, because there were disagreements in the South Sudanese government earlier on, pitting Riek Machar and Salva Kiir on both sides. And Salva Kiir as the president then, Riek Machar as the vice president, Salva Kiir decided to fire Riek Machar. And that did not augur well with the ethnic community around Riek Machar. And I'm talking about the Nuer. Well, Salva Kiir went on to fire the entire cabinet, and Machar challenged the move and called Salva Kiir a dictator. And therefore, he went on to establish his own movement called SPLM-IO, that is the Sudan People's Liberation Movement in opposition that fought against the Salva Kiir army. And when we're talking about these alignments, we're also talking about an armed struggle. There were people who were very loyal to Riek Machar then, who were in the army, and they decided to move with Riek Machar to fight the Salva Kiir's army that was waging a war against them. And sadly, this war extended for 5 years up to 2018, where there was a peace deal that was reached by both parties. And this is now what formed the unity government in South Sudan that made Salva Kiir to become the president and Riek Machar to become the first vice president. We are saying the first vice president because there are other vice presidents in South Sudan, but the first vice president is Riek Machar. Well, one of the major agreements of the 2018 peace deal was that both of these parties will bring together their forces to merge up and have one national army. And that was agreed by both parties on paper. But in reality, we still have these two factions in the army. We still have people who have weapons, generals and top people in the leadership in the military that are still aligned to either Riek Machar or Salva Kiir. Well, this recent flare-up started in Nasir County, where an armed youth militia and South Sudanese armed forces erupted in clashes on February 14th. And it is unclear what exactly started the fight, but there were clashes in Nasir County that now caused the jitters across the country in terms of security. And this was followed by a series of government changes in South Sudan by Salva Kiir that was seemingly targeting people who are allied to Riek Machar, because this being a unity government, Riek Machar has his people in government serving as ministers and other important people in government. And that went even further, with Salva Kiir commanding his army to surround Machar's home, essentially putting him under house arrest. That is how this entire recent conflict in South Sudan has been brewing. It is important to note that there were rumors that there will be forced disarmament of people who are allied to Riek Machar and other militia existing in the country. And that could be the reason as to why the entire flare-ups of conflict and clashes in South Sudan took place. Well, I will keep you informed of the recent happenings in South Sudan and the fact that right now we have the Ugandan People Defense Forces in Juba to assist the South Sudanese government in the recent flare-ups of the security crisis in South Sudan. Keep it bona fide.